Gamification is the process of reducing down and simplifying scenarios into an accessible, interactive experience reminiscent of traditional video game mechanics. Fitness apps, for example, gamify exercise by giving you points and a goal to reach. But it's one thing to gamify physical interactions like that, and another to gamify emotional interactions, like the conversations of a first date. And the gamification of emotional interactions and experiences is where Florence excels. Florence is a great mobile game, and if you haven't played it, you really should. This video contains spoilers, so even though I don't think knowing the plot of the game will make it any less enjoyable, if you do want to go in blind, don't watch this video until after you've played it. Florence depicts a relationship from beginning to end through simple, miniaturized bits of gameplay. It's a game where you play as someone who falls in and then out of love and learns to overcome the heartbreak. It starts with a display of the average day of the main character, Florence. She brushes her teeth, checks social media, argues with her mom about her romantic relationship status, and she goes to work where she does mindless menial tasks. And in every one of these little mini games is a wonderful bit of storytelling. When she's checking her social media, you don't even see the full pictures that you're asked to like or share because they don't matter. The focus is put instead on what her reaction to these images is. It's static, unchanging. It also doesn't matter what you do when these same pictures show up again. They're a clear sign of unfulfillment, of empty padding in Florence's life she's using just to try to get through the day. Similarly, the conversation with her mother is one-sided and never changes in any meaningful way. The work is a simple matching minigame. None of these minigames overstay their welcome, which keeps the player from getting bored, but they're also perfect at getting across the character of Florence and where she is in life. There's no sense of control here, only aimlessly floating through the repetitive life of Florence. It's a fast and effective method of establishing character. It's not original purely in terms of narrative, but the way it gamifies these interactions puts you into the shoes of the character really quickly by making it clear that she feels the same way about her daily interactions as you do. The interactivity in video games gives you an inherent investment in the main character, and Florence really uses that to its advantage in these opening moments to get across her apathy to life. Florence is walking down the street, doing the same thing she always does, checking her social media, where you see the same picture as you did before. But this time, her phone runs out of battery, and she's exposed to the music playing out in the real world. What she finds at the end of the road is Krish. This is a love at first sight situation, which leads to a meet cute, which leads to a date. And this date is the first of my two favorite examples of gamification in Florence. When it starts out, Krish asks you a question, and you put together a puzzle to respond. With every response, the puzzles get easier and easier. As Florence gets more comfortable with Krish and the conversation as a whole, the puzzles also get simpler. As the two of them realize they like each other and there's chemistry there, the conversation gets smoother and smoother until it's just one big, simple speech bubble. Without a single actual line of dialogue, the game establishes a connection between the two characters as well as the subsequent growth of that connection. Eventually, the two move in together, and you decide what to keep from Florence's stuff and what to put into storage in favor of putting in Krish's stuff instead. This is, I think, the best section of the game in terms of gamifying the themes and ideas, and I'll expand on why in the conclusion. The game also twists the gameplay you experienced in the beginning. Now, the day goes by automatically, much quicker. Florence no longer stares down at her phone, she no longer argues with her mom, and gets through work with a smile. Krish gets her paint, encourages her artwork, and she begins to take up a passion again that was discouraged at a young age. The things that were dull, repetitive, and meaningless before, which was represented by meaningless bits of gameplay, are now just quick blurs with no needed interactions that give you more time to see their connection grow. Florence's life is still the same in a lot of ways. She works at the same place, still takes the same train, brushes her teeth twice a day, but just like she's rejuvenated by having Krish in her life and relishing the meaningful moments in life, you as the player quickly rush past the repetitive sections. It's not all roses though. There's an argument that happens between the two before the moving in, and it flips the earlier conversation as a puzzle mechanic on its head. At first it's the same as it was before, but then it turns into blocky pieces instead of the rounded, inviting ones, before becoming sharp, like knife points, as the argument gets more and more heated. Whereas before you were seeing the slow but sure rise of comfort and conversation, you now see the pieces turning less inviting and more heated. The words presumably getting sharper, just like the edges of the pieces. Then the argument is full blown, and the screen tilts in favor of whoever is ahead, because this is now a competition. You have no knowledge of who's at fault, if there even is someone at fault. All you know is that this is now a game you're trying to win, just like someone trying to win an actual argument at any cost. But hey, all couples fight, and Florence and Krish make up quickly. This time, anyway. 1 year later, you press the snooze button on the clock, and immediately it's clear that things aren't as great as they used to be. You play through all the minigames again. Florence is arguing with her mom again. You get glimpses of Krish's daily life, and he seems sadder even when playing music, the thing he loves most. Slowly but surely, the magic's vanished. The paint has been buried under more and more work, and Krish's music has taken a decidedly darker tone. The year has drifted the two of them apart. There's a second fight. This one's a lot worse. There's not even any piecing together, you just throw speech bubbles at each other, and after a while it's hard to even tell where they're coming from. The player gets to this puzzle, seemingly an opportunity to put all the pieces back together, maybe take things back to the way they used to be. But when you finish it, all you get is two people separated, two pieces that just don't fit together, no matter how much you try. In this little segment, the game is giving you what seems like a gameplay opportunity, only to make you understand you're stuck with no real options, just like Florence herself. Krish moves out, and you're forced to do the opposite of what you did when you moved in, having to recall which object fits into whose life and what belongs to whom. The last leg of the narrative here is about seeing Florence move on. There's a long time when she seems lost, wandering through life, but eventually she finds the paint again. Here the game more or less switches to entirely narrative. After having you get attached to Florence through its simple gameplay segments, a purely narrative conclusion is an effective way to end the story. You control Florence throughout the game, so seeing a mostly non-interactive narrative conclusion to a character you've grown attached to feels fair and earned. The only control you really have here is the movement of time. For the rest, it's really up to Florence to grow beyond her stagnant life, with the help of a mother she finally reaches out to. Florence is ultimately a game about connection, about the way in which the people we share our lives with change us. Krish gets Florence the paint set, he encourages and inspires her talent, and even when they separate, that part of her remains. The people we care about leave, as we experience by having to literally rip Krish away from an image of them together, but the way in which they become a part of us remains. When Krish moves in, you put away some of Florence's things in order to make room for his stuff. This is the two of them leaving parts of themselves behind because of their love for each other. They change as people, abandon parts of themselves, but also have new experiences as a result of their changes. When Krish moves out, you might forget some items, considering that some of the items are actually rearranged. And that's okay, because some small part of him will always be with her. Florence actually finds a picture of Krish under her keyboard, because no matter how much we try to erase them completely, the people who change us always stay with us in the form of those changes, and every intimate connection costs us a little part of ourselves. It's a terrifying, beautiful, and dangerously intimate process, one which we can never truly revert back from. Krish and Florence separate, but that spark that reignites her passion is what helps Florence grow as a person, and that paint set that Krish got her is what serves as inspiration to move on, even though the memories always remain. And the reason all of this works, the reason you can feel the connection within a tight 40-minute narrative, is because of effective moments of gamification that let you into the mind of Florence and allow you to go through the heartbreak at her side.